thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Wednesday. I'm really excited to talk to you about the guaranteed way to get a great job in 6 months. And what you see on this screen is a picture of me holding a Lagunitas IPA, my first week working at Facebook. And they gave me great beer. They have that word written on their sidewalk out there in Menlo Park. It's good to be here, and it was good to be there. So also one caveat before I go further. I've gotten some feedback on my past presentations that I tend to go off on tangents, so I'm going to do a better job of staying on message here. So I will be reading from some notes on some slides. You might see my eyes reading some notes. I apologize for that. My eyes just tend to move when I see words, but appreciate any patience with me as I'm trying to get better at talking to you in a natural way while conveying a good message that is valuable for you. Also, we will be taking questions and answers at the end. If you want to put your Q&A in, if you want to put your questions in the chat, Alyssa will be kind of moderating those. I will be answering those at the end. So first slide, in the tech industry, we used to call this bluff, which comes from the military, bottom line up front. I'm really hoping that you're having a great Wednesday, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come to this talk. And I'm going to get right into this. A lot of people struggle on getting a new job. They waste time on things that don't matter, like endlessly tweaking their cover letters or their resume, where they do their job search in fits and starts. You'll apply to a few places when you're really unhappy with your current job. Maybe you go on an interview or two, but you don't get offers. And then you go back to doing nothing for a few months. In fact, a lot of times, people don't even really know the kind of job they want. They just know that the job they have right now isn't it. And that's totally fine if you don't know where you're going. But if you don't have a real plan or a true strategic target yet, totally okay. You can start from where you are. And I'm here to talk to you about what I'm here to talk to you about today is the fact that this all can change for you in 6 months or less. There's a specific path to get clear on the type of job you want and then methodically take actions that guarantee you to get the job in 6 months or less. There's no luck here. There's no hope here. There's no maybes here. I'm talking about a definitive proven system that will work if you choose to follow it. And if that sounds nuts, batshit crazy, don't worry. I'll show you what I mean, and I'll leave time for Q&A at the end. Hope that's cool with everybody here. If not, well, I don't know. You can leave at any time, but hopefully that is cool. So before we get into the details, let me say this. The reason that I can confidently say to you that there really is a guaranteed way to get a great job in 6 months is because I've done it over and over again. I'm not going to read everything on this slide word for word because I assume you're here. I assume you're intelligent. I assume you can read. But the short version is that I've had nearly a 30-year career in leadership roles at Google, Facebook, Salesforce, American Express, and Tableau. Throughout that time, I use a system that I'm about to share with you today to go from a manager to director to VP to global department head in about 10 years. And in fact, by the time I left my last job, I was making over $500,000 a year as global director at Salesforce. And I'm not saying that to brag. It's just really showing you what is possible here. And I've hired hundreds of people, so I know what companies look for in candidates, and I know what they're willing to pay for those candidates. I've interviewed as a candidate myself at hundreds of companies, including just Amazon. I went through the full loops on Monday, and I can answer questions about that if you're interested. And all that is to say that the guaranteed job system did not come from a book. It didn't come from some untested theory. I didn't make it up after doing shots at a bar. And actually, I'm really bad at doing shots. They don't work well for me. But this all came from my own experience. And this is what I've seen work for myself and dozens of clients. First thing first, in my opinion, the best way to guarantee a great job in 6 months or less is to focus on the big tech companies, and not just the huge names like the FANGs, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, but also Stripe, Twilio, Microsoft, Airbnb, Intuit, VMware, and lots of other great tech companies. And there's a good reason. Actually, there's several good reasons why I encourage my clients to focus their job search on the tech companies. I'm going to share those with you now before we move on. So I don't really care if you need to work in tech, but you should want to work in tech. And some of the core reasons are, these are some of the most respected companies in the world, and employees say that all the time. Just check out Glassdoor reviews on them. These companies treat people really well, and I'll show you how they've treated me on the next slide. These companies pay people really well, and I'll show you the data of how well these companies pay. And they're still hiring a lot, despite all the evil news, not evil news, all the downtrodden news. These companies are still hiring a lot. Right here is a slide of my life over the last decade plus in tech. On the left side of this slide are all people that entertained me during my career. Bruno Mars played a concert for us at Google, me and 10,000 other people, and will.i.am opened up. We went to, I forget the name of the place, but a big, where UNLV plays basketball. Macklemore entertained me and about 15,000 other Facebookers at the Cow Palace in, I think it's Sacramento, for a big sales meeting. Cory Booker, while he was still mayor of Newark, came to speak to us at Google. And man, I was able to tell then that he is an amazing orator and he's going to go somewhere. And then Deepak Chopra led us in a large meditation exercise at Facebook. That wasn't that good, but some people who dig his stuff may like that. But anyway, these companies pay for really good talent. In the middle panel here, you see some of the cool stuff that I was able to take part in. The top left picture is a picture of me and my wife, Melanie, when Facebook paid for room and board for her to come out with me to Dublin. And that's at the new Dublin office in Dublin, Ireland. You see a slide, the big red slide is a picture from the San Bruno office where Google's YouTube headquarters are. Everyone probably knows that YouTube is owned by Google. I went down that slide, laptop in tow. It was pretty fun. The next picture is a picture of just people wearing those big goofball blow up balls. That just happens in the Mountain View campus at Google. People just do that. That was my team that just put those on and just hung out during lunchtime. And then you see a game of beer pong that I was able to take part in my first week at Facebook. The right panel shows some of the over-the-top stuff. While I was at Google, we rented out Disneyland from 7 p.m. to midnight, kicked everybody else out of the park except us Googlers. And we had craft beer, top shelf wine. Well, actually, I don't know if it's top shelf or bottom shelf. I don't know where the wine is stored. And got to have no lines on Space Mountain and all those cool rides. We had offsites in Napa Valley. That menu with Mr. Burns on it, you saw menus like this at all the different cafeterias at Google, at Facebook. Stripe also gives free food. And then there's a picture of me just living the dream. That was a picture in Menlo Park. So things are pretty good. The air up there is pretty sweet. So on this slide, there are two main things that I want to emphasize. Number one, I made a huge leap in income going from American Express to Google back in 2011. My successful clients have found the same thing to be true when they jumped into big tech firms from startups or Fortune 500 companies. Tech companies just have more money to work with, and they're more generous than a lot. They're more generous than a lot of the older and more mature companies who tend to have stodgy limits on raises and salaries. And number two, I want to emphasize that I changed companies quite a bit between my stay at Google in 2011 and my last stop at Salesforce in 2021. You don't need to do the same, but if you want to maximize your compensation, it's generally easier to do that at a new company than by trying to wait to earn yearly merit increases at a single company that are usually capped at 3 to 5%. but that's a topic for another time. Like I demonstrated on the previous slide, the big tech companies flat out pay more and better than Fortune 500s and startups do. I'm emphasizing this because it's literally the foundation of my entire system. What I share in the next several slides will work to help you get a job at non-tech companies or most startups, but you'll almost certainly make less money and have less growth potential than you would if you applied the system within the world of big tech. Now I'm going to tell you why now is the right time to accelerate your career. Everybody is looking at all the headlines on the Wall Street Journal, the information on LinkedIn about Google freezing hiring, about Meta laying off people, about Coinbase retracting offers. This stuff is happening, but it is overblown. Here's some real data. There are over 400,000 roles open at the top 100 companies that Kadima recommends. And you can get that list going to kadimacareers.com/top 100. Across these companies, there's about 800 roles available at those companies. And my clients are getting roles at Amazon, Google, ADP, J&J, Johnson & Johnson, ForcePoint. They're getting these great jobs. And in fact, yesterday, I just got a job offer for Amazon myself. So I'm telling you, there are jobs out there. There are opportunities to be had. And another great thing about now, a lot of the compensation comes in RSUs, restricted stock units. And because the prices have been decimated from the market recently, you will be getting so many more shares in these companies that will grow over the course of time. So there's an old Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. Well, I have a new proverb to introduce to you today. The best time to look for a job was 6 months ago. The second best time is now, and that's by me. So, okay. So why do I say that this system guarantees you a job in 6 months? 6 months might sound like a long time to you, but the truth is, I have seen several clients who've done it sooner. I had someone, Wesley, get in 5 weeks. I've had someone else get in 2 months. That does happen. It's certainly possible, especially if you're diligent in executing the system and you have some luck on your side. However, I like to be realistic. I don't like to overpromise. And in my experience, 6 months is a solid window of time to dedicate towards the acquisition of a new job in big tech that's significantly better than your current one. And at the end of the summer, this has some specific benefits going on as well. So all of these professionals at these companies are off and about at their house on the Cape, at their lake house in Tahoe, or traveling in some faraway country. They won't be in the office to interview you, so interviewing might slow down, but these folks are kicking back on vacation and might be up for informational chat. I know I did that when I was working and on vacation. I still do that now. So use the summer to plant those seeds that will yield a nice harvest for you later in the fall and the winter. So what you need to understand next is if you want to assure yourself a successful job search is you need to understand how the big tech companies actually recruit new employees. And once you grasp this, you can systematically structure your actions in a way that optimize each step of the process until you start getting job offers that amaze you. Again, I've done this many, many times, so pay close attention. These are the exact strategies and insights that you need to understand so that you can get a great job quickly. What you see here, this is an acquisition job funnel. This is what happens in job search. When you submit a resume to any of these companies, you're going in with hundreds, if not thousands of other people. I can tell you that when I posted roles at all these companies, within a week, I would have hundreds of applicants. Within a couple of weeks, I would have hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. That's where it starts. The next stage is a recruiter, or maybe a sourcer, they call them sometimes, will be looking at those applications and probably only seriously looking at about 100 of them. And they're only looking at these applications they're looking at your resume between 6 and 60 seconds. So all that time that you spend on your resume, they're looking at them super quickly. If you're lucky, the recruiter will then wean that down to a list of about 10 to 20 people that they will reach out to. They will shoot you a note on LinkedIn, or they'll shoot you an email, and they'll be like, hey, Martin, we'd love to talk to you. We think you could be a good fit for this role at Shopify. You're all excited. You're speaking to a recruiter at Shopify. There's still 20 of you in the mix. If you get past the recruiter stage, which about 80%, Kadima clients, about 80% of them pass through to the recruiter stage, past the recruiter stage, the hiring manager, then you speak to the hiring manager. But you're also in the mix with 5 to 10 other people at the hiring manager stage. At that point, if you're fortunate and you have the right expertise and you're a good fit with that hiring manager, you will go on to what are called the loops, or sometimes panel interviews, or sometimes on-sites, although most of them are done virtually now. You are competing with 3 to 5 other people. So you're all excited. Amazon's about to invest 5 hours of time with you, with 5 different interviewers. They must really like me. Yes, they do, but they like 3 to 4 other people at that same time. So you're still, the odds are against you on that at that point. If you kick ass in those interviews and you are the best candidate, you will be deemed hireable. And then they will, if there's multiple people hireable, they will go to the top person and make that offer first. And if there's only one offer, they will only extend one offer. They're not extending multiple offers, but they go in order of who their top choice is, who their second choice is, and sometimes they have a third choice. But that's how the process works. So when you're submitting resumes, you are at extreme disadvantage on every particular role that you apply for. Taking a step back a little bit about how those applications come in and how people are considered, there's 3 primary paths to be considered for a job at these top tech companies. One, you can be recruited. And this just happened to me at Amazon. They reached out to me probably because they knew where I've worked previously and the schools that I went to and the titles I had. So that's privilege and experience I have. If you're fortunate enough to get recruited, great. But that's a limited number of people. And if you're trying to really accelerate your career, you may not have that on your resume at this point. The second way that most people apply is cold application. They're submitting an application. And here you really need to be submitting it at the right time, in the right place, for the right sort of roles to even be considered. And even there, it's a long shot. The third way, which people always talk about, and there's companies that have sprouted up here like Rooftop Slushy, and there's a couple of others, are referrals. Paid referrals, big waste of your time. You need to really earn these referrals because your referral needs to stand out. There's lots of people getting referred into these companies, but that is the other key way to get in. And if you get a referral that you have earned, you will stand out. You will dramatically increase the likelihood that you will be able to speak to that recruiter in that number, like down to the 20. So that's how you get in. Now, let me tell you about the 3 stages of the interview. And this happens in about 90% of the interviews. There's a couple of tweaks here or there, but this is pretty much what happens. There's a recruiter screen. The recruiter reaches out to you by email. They schedule a phone call, and they are trying to assess if you are a good fit from a qualification standpoint. They only want to pass on people that are a good use of the hiring manager's time. So they will pass about 5 to 8 to maybe 10 people to the hiring manager. The hiring manager will talk to that person usually for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and understand if you have the subject matter expertise and you're a good fit for that hiring manager, because you know what, that hiring manager is going to be managing you. So you want to have a good rapport. That's what the hiring manager is assessing. If the hiring manager likes you, then they're like, okay, now it's good enough to send on to the loops, and we can invest 4 or 5 other people's time at Google or at Stripe to interview Susanna. And at that point, you will be getting asked primarily behavioral-based questions. So tell me about a time when you had to work under a tight deadline, or tell me about a time when you failed in a big initiative. And they will be assessing your ability to respond effectively with behavioral-based interview questions, which is the STAR method. If you don't know the STAR method or how to answer behavioral-based interview questions, definitely Google that. You can find that information on our site as well. But they're assessing your experience, fit, and approach. So that's how it goes. They're all basically the same. There's some differences with Amazon, with their bar raiser, and there's some with Google with their 4 leadership, their 4 principles that they focus on. Stripe's a little bit different, but not all that different. They're all essentially the same outside of Google and Amazon. So in addition to those 3 stages of the interview, each one of those stages have phases of that 30-minute conversation, of that 45-minute conversation, of that hour conversation. And it's important for you to get in the head of that decision maker on the other side. The way you do that is first you need to build rapport, small talk, get to know them, talk about, like if you did some research on them on LinkedIn before, if you know where they live, if you know anything about them, just have some small talk, build rapport. People that like you will be more inclined to give you positive results. Secondly, TMAY, tell me about yourself. I just went through the Amazon interview loops. I interviewed with 5 people. I had to tell 5 people about myself. The question was asked differently sometimes, maybe walk me through your resume, or what brought you to this stage today, or tell me about yourself. But essentially that's what it is. And you need to have that buttoned up, a 2 to 4 minute spiel that communicates why you're there, why you're interested in this role, and why this company. Questions for you. So this is a lion's share of the interview process. They're firing questions at you. You may not know what's coming, but you can usually predict them if you prepare ahead of time. And then 4th, questions from you. So almost every interview will allow you to ask questions at the end. You don't want to just come up with them off the top of your head. You want to have a few prepared questions. You may want to alter them and alter them based on the state of the conversation, but you want to have 3 questions for each interviewer so that you're not hemming and hawing when they say, hey, Sandeep, what questions do you have for me? I don't know, like what time, what are the working hours? No, that's not the question you want to be asking them. That may be a question you want to ask after you get the offer, but not during the interview process. All right. Now that you have a cleaner picture of how big tech companies choose who to hire for open roles, I can show you the actual framework that I created and that I guide others through to tilt the odds in your favor and virtually guarantee that you get a great new job in 6 months. It's called the growth framework, and we're going to talk about that now. And you'll also begin to see how much I love acronyms. You'll see lots of acronyms coming at, and you'll see what growth stands for in a second. The system that I created is called the growth framework. And you can see the acronym here. Right away, you probably noticed that there isn't anything on this slide about resumes and LinkedIn profiles or any of that superficial crap. You need to get those documents into what Steve Dalton says objectively perfect state, i.e. no typos, keep it to 1 to 2 pages, make it visually pleasing on the eyes, and subjectively good enough. It will never be perfect. Then move on. Fretting over those items are not going to be the difference maker in your search, and in fact, it'll distract you from your goal at hand. So instead, the true core and driving engine of the growth framework and the thing with the power to guarantee your success in finding a new job that meets your standards are relationships. Real, authentic relationships with people you can educate on how specific companies, they can educate you on how the specific companies really operate and refer you to the front of the line for new openings when the timing is right. Relationships, more than any other thing, are responsible for my career success. 24 out of the 29 jobs I've gotten, actually, I got to update that because I just got a job offer from Amazon, but I don't know if I'm going to take that. But 24 out of 29 are due to who I knew that got me in the door, not what I knew. Case in point, I got into Google after 5 failed tries because 1 referral from the right insider. I got into Facebook and Salesforce the same way. And yes, I still had to interview and actually be qualified, as you'll have to be. But building the right relationships quite literally slingshotted me towards the front of the line and opened the door. And building relationships is not rocket science. It's actually pretty straightforward and kind of fun once you get clear on your goals, because it's only then that you know who exactly to reach out to and start building relationships with. So it all starts there. But before I send new coaching clients on the loose into the networking jungle, I always start with assessing their strengths and identifying laser-focused goals for their job search. Once that's been done, we proceed to outreach. I have a whole playbook for establishing contact with connected insiders that and you can help turn those people from strangers into people who know, like, trust you, and are happy to help. Networking is one of my personal specialties for whatever reason. I just have a knack for it, and I've learned what really works in getting people to talk and open up. You don't start by saying, hey, can you refer me for this program manager job at Spotify? That's opposite of how this works. Just like you wouldn't walk into a bar and go up to the first good-looking person and ask them to marry you. It's the same thing here. You got to warm them up. This system also hinges on timing. There are certain times that make the most sense for you to apply to certain roles. Some of the timing depends on when those roles become available, and it also depends on how prepared you are to interview for those roles and to answer the role-specific questions that will come your way during those interview loops. And of course, once you start getting those job offers, there are levers that you can pull in negotiation that will significantly boost your compensation, up to like $143,000 more. So this entire growth framework is powered by actions that you take, some of them separately, some of them in parallel, that compound for you and build momentum towards interviews and great new job offers. This way, you're not so dependent on luck anymore. In fact, you could say that the growth framework is about creating your own luck or increasing your surface area of luck by clarifying your goals, building relationships, and working the system to a point where you winning is an eventual outcome. In the Kadima coaching program, I hold people accountable for making constant weekly progress in each of these areas so that there's never a day when your search is not moving forward. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but let's address the elephant in the room first. It's hard. If you heard anything I just shared about the growth framework and you thought, that sounds hard, you are right. This is not a casual pursuit. If you want a great new job that pays you a lot more money, gives you interesting work to do, and elevates your future candidacy for higher level roles, it's going to take more time and energy than the way you've probably gotten jobs thus far. I'm not here to sugarcoat this for anybody. Whether you pursue the growth framework on your own or you get coaching from me, this is going to take real work over a sustained period of time. In fact, here's a preview of what lies ahead. You're going to get rejected from roles that you're perfectly qualified for, and they're never going to tell you why. They do not give feedback, if you noticed. You'll have lots of conversations with people that are purely designed for you to learn and build relationships. Those conversations right then will not instantaneously lead to a new job offer. You'll have interviews where you totally bomb and embarrass yourself. Write it down. Take it to the bank. I promise you, this will happen to you. But as you gain practice in the growth framework, the transformation will take place. And like one of my clients who just went through the system told me afterwards, you will have acquired the skill of accelerating your career with your own action. So this is a skill you can learn. I learned how to get into college by learning how to take the SAT. Similarly, you can learn how to get a great job through following this process. The alternative to using the growth framework is what you see on this slide. I'm guessing some, if not all of you, are pretty familiar with these experiences. When you don't have a structured plan for your search, you become subject to the chance and chaos of the job market. You get tossed around like a piece of driftwood on the high seas, floating to and fro, no control, no power, no agency, which the no agency part really claws at me. I like to be in control. This is not the way to search for a new job. This is not a sophisticated career strategy. And I want you to know, regardless of what you decide to do next, that this does not have to be the way you steer the remainder of your career. You can use a growth framework to take control of how much you earn, the work that you do, how high you rise in your field, and the opportunities that come your way. So before we go to Q&A, which we'll definitely have time for, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about how I can help you put the growth framework into action so that you can literally and truly guarantee that you'll have an awesome new job in 6 months. The first thing I'll say is that accelerating people's career isn't just the way that I keep the lights on. It's not a job to me. Somewhere along the way, as I began to help friends and family members get into great companies and open doors that were previously closed to them, I became obsessed with this. Like, I just go to LinkedIn for fun. I'm on LinkedIn more than Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn more than TikTok, than YouTube, anything. I recognize the job search and I also recognize that the job search is real systemic problem in the world with lots of noise out there. So I started Kadima Careers, which is a word in Hebrew which means forward, to give people the tools and insights to confidently take control of their professional destiny. That's really what this is all about. You can see by some of the results I've helped get people here on the screen. Once again, I'm not going to read every word out loud on this. I hate when people do that. But you can see that that a lot of the people that I'm working with are increasing their average annual comp by $98,000 in less than 4 months right now, 3.8 months. And that's because all of our work with our clients is based squarely upon this proven growth framework that I just talked about. So while previously you might have felt like you were in this black hole of rejection and frustration, now there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And apologies, really bad mixed metaphor. If anybody has a better one for me to use, please forward it to me. I'm always looking to improve. But Kadima will provide you with specific methods, scripts, and templates that will show you where to find the best and freshest roles. We'll save you time from working on futile activities. And on that note, please, 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 for the love of God, stop writing cover letters unless they're required. Very rarely are they required, but no one's reading your cover letters. Don't waste your time. I'm a numbers guy. I'm maniacally focused on delivering measurable impact. And that's where I talked about the 98,000 and the 3.8 months. But I've spoken a lot about numbers, so I want to share some stories behind those results. Harold, up top left here, MBA. He came to me when I was working in Salesforce, asked while I was also at Kadima, and he asked for advice on how to get to Salesforce. Gave him some advice. I also told him, do not put all your eggs in the same basket. And he spread out his wings and he applied also to Amazon. He did not get the Salesforce role that I advised him on, did get the Amazon role, and now he's there full time. Anielle, started working with her. She was a consultant in Massachusetts, making okay money. She wanted to work at one of the FANGs. She worked with me. About 4 or 5 months later, she landed an awesome program manager role at Facebook. It was called Facebook at the time, now Meta. She made $80,000 more. Plus, they relocated her and her husband down to Texas, where, you know what? They don't have any state income tax. The 2 stories on the bottom are what I call people that used a stepping stone approach. So Brittany went from Georgia Pacific as a copywriter to Supernatural, which is a company that was getting acquired by Facebook. She updated that on her profile. All of a sudden, Apple was interested in her. Now she's at Apple, making 2 times the compensation that she was previously. The guy at Google, he doesn't want me to say his name. He came to working with me as a consultant from Genpact. He wound up getting a job at Microsoft, making $150,000 more. He spent about a year at Microsoft. Within 6 months or so, Google came knocking at his door and say, "Ooh, looks like you're an impressive individual here." He wasn't interested in taking that interview. I was like, dude, why not? Listen to them. He went down that path. Now he's a product manager at Google, making $250,000 more than Microsoft. So he's gone up a total of $400,000 in a year, following the growth framework. So here's the deal. You want to take what I shared with you today about the growth framework and go off and execute it on your own. Awesome. You can download more material on our website. It's all free and available there. I encourage you to do that. And I would love if you email me sometime and share how your search is going and how the growth framework is working for you. It's so gratifying to hear from people where they get these great wins. However, as you might imagine, there's a lot of nuance and detail to this, to executing the growth framework effectively, to really customizing it for your own goals and making the framework work for you. So if you're somebody who could use some structure and support and accountability, let me tell you about Kadimah's 6-month career accelerator program that we're reintroducing. And I call it KCAP for short. And the reason why we're reintroducing it is we are so confident with the results that we are guaranteeing that this program works. I have 2 years of experience working with this, 25 years working with myself. This shit works. This is a one-on-one coaching program where I take a tiny group of people through the growth framework. And I personally guide you through each phase of the process, establishing your goals, creating your list of target companies, positioning your strengths, reaching out to relevant and connected insiders, and I even give real feedback on actual interviews. Trust me when I tell you this, that's even better than mock interviews. I'll do mock interviews also, but I give you real interview feedback. When you start getting offers, I'll show you the levers to negotiate for more money. And it's not just salary, but sign-on bonuses, relocation bonuses, RSUs, restricted stock units. By the way, if this all sounds overwhelming to you, I have twice-a-week office hours where you can drop in to talk through any challenges you're experiencing and get feedback from me to keep moving forward. This is a high-touch program where I'm available to you as a direct resource to use a growth framework to get a kick-ass job. In fact, one of my favorite things to do that I've done repeatedly for KCAPers is personally introduce them to decision makers who I know at their target companies. I'm not going to do that willy-nilly, but I will do that in selective spots, and I will first ask you to fish on your own because that will be even more valuable. But I know tons of recruiters and executives at companies throughout big tech. If you can name a company that you're interested in, I probably know one, probably dozens of people there. And when the time's right, it's totally my pleasure to open my network and connect you with someone who can open doors for you. Obviously, KCAP isn't right for everyone. It's a big investment of time and money. But if you like what I shared today and you want to get the guidance of someone who's been where you're trying to go, I invite you to apply and have a conversation to see if you're a good fit. If you're not, I promise I'll tell you off the bat. After all, I can only make this new job guarantee to people that I know that I can help. It puts onus on me to be selective and to steer you in a different direction if KCAP isn't up your alley, which I'll gladly do if that's what turns out to be the case. So if you're ready to get started accelerating your career and land a great new job in less than 6 months, you need to take these 4 steps. First, you need to apply, and I'll show you the link to where to apply. Secondly, you're going to have a phone or video-based interview with me. And like I did at Google, like I did at Facebook, like I did at Salesforce, before I hired anybody on my team, even if there were several lowers below me, I always insisted on interviewing them. I want to make sure that this is a good fit for you and that I can help you succeed. Third, you join the KCAP program. And then fourth, I'll be offering you personalized advice that leads to your new job search, your new job, or you'll get your money back. And as a special offer to those attending today or watching on the replay, I'm waiving the application fee. We usually charge $99, but now you can apply for free by going to this very unwieldy name, which we weren't able to update before this session, but you go to products.kadimahcareers.com/apply. Very simple. That's the hardest part of this whole thing. And because I want you to get started right away, accelerating your career, I'm only leaving this application window open until Saturday night. I really want people that are motivated to change. And heads up, this isn't a quick and breezy application. The questions will require you to really think about your answers. And also, I want to give you a solid chunk of time to think them over. So once again, there's no pressure. I only want folks to apply who have taken the info in and who feel like the structure and support and the results the result guarantee of KCAP is exactly what you need. And I only have room for 10 clients at this time. Beyond that, I won't be able to give each person the one-on-one support they need. So that's all I got. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I think the people who this is right for know who they are, and they're welcome to step forward by applying between now and Saturday night. With that, I'm going to move to questions and answers, and we have 17 minutes for that. So thank you. Hope looks like people were putting some good questions in here. So I am going to start reading down the list for them, but please do add additional questions in here. So Chris says, does referral carry weight beyond getting you in front of the recruiters? It can, but usually the largest benefit of a referral is to get you to the recruiter screen. If you have a super duper advocate or booster, they can do some greasing of the wheels behind the scenes, especially if they are a high level. They can use some of their hierarchical weight to help support you, but usually the point of the referral is just to get you to the referral and be considered. So hopefully that answers your question, Chris. Lakshmi asks, that's a good comment, Lakshmi. You say, tell me about yourself, 2 to 4 minutes. Thank you. That can go on for 10 minutes. I once had an interviewer at my time at Google. Like I interviewed 250 people in, I think it was 2015, 225 people in 2015. And I would have people, my first question would be, tell me about yourself. I had this one kid, and I call him a kid because he was like 6 months out of college, go on about 17 minutes out of the 30-minute first conversation about himself. And he didn't really have that much on his resume. He was only like 6 months out of college. He's telling me how he's his fraternity president and he's doing work on the softball team. So that went 17 minutes. My next question for him was, what questions do you have for me? That was like, I was done with him. And the question that he asked me actually was, I remember this one, what advice do you have for millennials? I was like, dude, prepare for your interviews. So yes, you need to keep your tell me about yourself to no longer than 3-4 minutes. It could go 5 minutes, 17 minutes. No, that's not going to work for you. Okay, Anusha, yes, please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Let's see. Mahim asks, what percentage of my clients are industry changers? It's a good question. I would imagine 50 to 75% are industry changers. Though, like going back to those examples of the people, Harold was an industry changer, Aniel was an industry changer, the anonymous dude was an industry changer, and Brittany was an industry changer. So all 4 of those examples were, but I've also had people that have gone from tech startups into large companies. I had someone go from Salesforce to Amazon, making a lot more money. So it's probably about 50 to 75%. Can I share a story on how a relationship in my network panned out as part of the growth framework? I can share many of them. There's actually a great blog on our website now. I think it's up there where it shares the exact story about how I got into Google. But when I got into baseball, when I moved from venture capital to baseball, I started reaching out to anybody and everyone that I knew that might be connected to someone in baseball. I started calling people up on the phone. I actually called the Milwaukee Brewers on the phone and got in touch with Bob Melvin, who was a general manager at the time. I went down to the baseball winter meetings. Someone who knew someone who knew someone happened to know the general manager of the New Haven Ravens, a minor league affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. Put me in touch with this guy, Adam. Adam liked my background. A few months later, when a role opened up to be the director of promotions for the New Haven Ravens, he poached me away from the Brooklyn Cyclones. And that was all because of relationships. So that's one good story. There's plenty more. I don't want to talk too much about my stories, but in 24 out of my 29 jobs originated because of someone opening the door for me. Do I see some racial profiling in tech sales jobs? So I see racial bias so I don't know what you mean by racial profiling, but I definitely see lots of bias in the recruiting process. And it occurs a lot across the whole process. But when you look at those three primary ways that people get recruited into a company, recruiters reaching out to you, there is bias there because they are looking at good companies and good schools. And there's lots of bias at who's at good companies and who are good schools. Then when you talk about applying in cold, there's less bias there. Anybody is eligible to apply. But on the referral side, there is immense bias because white people know a lot more white people. Black people know a lot more Black people. Indians know a lot more Indians. And only 3.4% of tech is Black. So there are going to be a lot less referrals that are Black. There are going to be a lot less referrals that are women because only about 33% of tech jobs are women. So there are biases in there. So yes, there are biases. There's other spots of biases. I'm doing this talk soon on all those biases and how to circumvent it. So yes, there are biases. I don't think there's racial profiling going on. Chris says, I have one part of my Amazon loop at 2 p.m. Anything specific you would recommend for this specifically as this is imminent? So part one of your Amazon loop. So the first part is recruiter, second part is hiring manager, then is the loops where you should have 5 people lined up. So I'm assuming if you're talking loops, that's the loop, but Amazon gives you lots of great advice that they help you prepare. That's one suggestion. Secondly, check out, I have a podcast called the Sick Career Podcast. You can go to syckpodcast.com. Check out this podcast by Eric Hudson. He's an Amazon bar raiser. I don't know if you'll have time to do that before 2 p.m. But I'll tell you what they but listen to Eric's podcast. He is a former Amazon bar raiser, and he will spill the beans on how Amazon recruiting is done. So that's not going to help you for 2 o'clock, but check that out. But know that they're going to be behavioral-based interview questions. And if you're not prepared now, I don't think there's anything you're going to be able to do in the next 70 minutes to get prepared for that, but use this as practice. And also as a tip, record your interview with what's it called? A dictation app. I have one on my Pixel. If you have a Pixel, I can recommend Google Recorder, but if you have an iPhone, there's different apps. Record that and listen to it and you will learn. Question, what percent, so Utpal is, oh wait, so someone has an anonymous question. I have very non-traditional background, no tech, no MBA, been feeling fear of missing out around further credentials, like doing an MBA. Civil engineer friend who finished his BS and MS in civil is now doing MSCS from US. Lots of acronyms there. Struggling to figure out path forward, role, function, bootcamp, credentials, etc. Any advice? Just feel stuck in the endless loop of watching YouTube videos. Yes, YouTube videos will drive you crazy. Boot camps, not a good use of money. Credentials, certification, not a good use of money. The role and function should be leveraging your strength. So download our growth framework on our website. But you should be talking to people that are at the places where you want to be. I don't know if this person that you're getting advice from are at the companies you want to be. If not, I would be suspect to that person's advice. So without knowing more detail, that would be my high level. But you can check out our growth framework on our website, or you can apply for KCAP and we will get all those questions answered for you. So Utpal's asking, what percent of the job duties should one match, and what if you match and the title is different, but duties are the same? So also, not to plug my podcast again, but there's a great podcast that I did with a colleague of mine, Jay, where we talked about how poorly job descriptions are written and why you should not allow that to intimidate you from applying for a role. So look at that application, look at that podcast, and the role I got at Google, I was not fully qualified for. It said you needed a BS in a technical field. I had a BA in psychology. That's not technical. So use those job descriptions loosely. They are often poorly written. And my general advice is don't take yourself out of the process. Let them take you out of the process. Someone asked if I'm going to take the Amazon job. I don't know. I'm going to negotiate later today. I'll see what they're offering. I'll see if it allows me to continue my focus on my mission to drive Kadima forward. And I'm going to ask for a lot. And when it comes to negotiation theory, something I teach is I have a very strong BATNA, a best alternative to a negotiated agreement. I love Kadima. I love what I'm building here. If Amazon will pay me decently and allow me to continue to achieve my mission with Kadima, I might consider it. So I'll let you know. You'll find out on LinkedIn, or you can follow up with me. Let's see. So Chris is saying his loop is broken into 2 today. At this point, it's just cramming, but do what they told you to do. Listen to Eric's podcast. And also if you join the Kadima program, not only that, like Eric has a podcast, but he has a 2-hour clip in our online course where you will see even more in depth. And yeah, good luck with that. Let me, Chris, I'd love to hear how that turns out. Please let me know. Let's see. So can previous folks who dropped out of my program reapply? Yes, you can. And I'm not going to say your name, but yes, you may apply. The program has evolved a lot, and it's a little bit more accountability driven. So if you're ready to be accountable, definitely would love to have you back in the program. And I'm not going to say your name because you sent that message to me directly. And I hope you're well, and I would love to reconnect with you. And I have had some people rejoin. Advice on skill transfer for sales job, for example, from non-tech to tech, from product sales to software services. Play to your strengths. If you're the hiring manager hiring someone, they don't give a shit if you want to go into sales. They care if you've sold before. So if you want to make that switch, you're going to need to do that through outreach and building relationships and having someone take a gamble on you. Otherwise, play to your strengths. If you're applying cold, if you're getting a referral in, you need to play to your strengths, get your foot in the door, and then you can move around after that. Hopefully that answers your question, Sandeep. Good luck, Chris. I see you got to go. Go cram. Good luck, and let me know how that goes. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. Let me just feel free to fire questions, or you can come off mute. I think we have that ability for people to come off mute. But last thing here. Oh, wait, was this? Oh, I think I should have had this. I should have had this up when I was doing the Q&A. My bad. And again, I know, launching and iterating. Apply now, please. This is a great program. I am putting my reputation on the line. I am so confident that this will work, that if you are motivated, if you have the desire to follow this process, that you will get a fantastic job in 6 months. Go to products.kademacareers.com/apply. Applications are accepted until midnight. I think it's midnight Eastern time. I'm not exactly sure the time zone. I think it's Eastern time. And again, I'm not opening this up tremendously. I want to make sure that we are bringing in people that I can provide individualized, personalized, customized support for. So we only have 10 spots. And this application process usually costs $99 because I do interview everyone personally. I do read all the applications personally. So there is a time constraint for me. And I want to make sure you're serious about it. But for people that have joined this, people that are watching the replay, it's gratis. And then finally, if you don't want to invest, well, it's not even $99. The only thing you really need to do is go to that site and apply. But if you don't even want to go to that site and apply, we have free goodies for you too. So one, follow me on LinkedIn. I post there daily. Most of it is good. Some of it is crap, but most of it is good. And please give me comments. Give me thumbs up or feedback on that. I really read all those comments on LinkedIn, and I would appreciate your feedback there. Listen to our podcast. We're releasing a grade 1 tomorrow. My one last week was awesome. It was this author from Google who really gave me a lot of insight. This guy, Russ Laraway here, this dude here. Oh, you can't see him that well. But anyway, that was a good podcast. It's good stuff. I'd love your feedback on that. And then sign up for our newsletter. Every week, we send you great tips, great advice, news about our events, and cute pictures of my dogs, which are in the background here, which you can't see. So that's all I got for you. I've saved you 3 minutes, but if people have questions, feel free to fire away, unmute, feel free to put them in the chat, or feel free to try mental telepathy, and we'll see if that works. Any last questions? Okie dokie. Well, have a happy hump day. Great to see some old friends here. Lakshmi, we got to catch up. Love to hear what's going on with you. And now that travel's back open with your business, that's exciting. And great to see everybody here. You're welcome for everybody that joined. And don't forget, you own your career. You are essentially a free agent. You own your career. We at Academia help accelerate it. Catch you later. Bye-bye.